I caught my wife cheating with my brother. They took everything, but I had the last laugh. Look, I need to tell you something right off the bat. There are two types of people in this world, the builders and the takers. I spent my whole life being a builder. 38 years old, hands covered in calluses that I wear like badges of honor, running my own contracting business in the suburbs. I believed in the simple stuff. Honest work. Fair pay. A handshake that meant something. My old man taught me that if you wanted something in life, you built it yourself, brick by brick, nail by nail. And that house, man, that house was supposed to be my masterpiece. I am talking about a genuine Victorian beauty from 1887, the kind with the wraparound porch, original crown molding, those tall windows that let the morning sun flood every room. It had good bones, strong bones, the kind of structure that just needed someone who actually gave a damn to bring it back to life. When I first saw the listing, I just knew, this was it. This was the house my future kids would grow up in. The house where I would grow old with my wife, Sarah. 7 years of marriage. 7 years of me working 60-hour weeks. Skipping lunches. Driving a truck that was held together with duct tape and prayer. Every extra dollar went into the savings account. Every bonus check. Every tax return. Sarah would complain sometimes about why we could not take vacations like her friends did. Why we ate more pasta than steak. Why I would not upgrade my phone every year like normal people. But I had a vision. She said she understood. She said she was on board. The house at the market in March, listed as is. That is contractor code for this place needs serious work. But if you have got the skills and guts, you can turn trash into treasure. The asking price was almost criminal. $200,000 below market value for that neighborhood. The inspector report was a nightmare. Foundation issues, outdated electrical, plumbing from the Eisenhower era, roof that looked like Swiss cheese. Normal people ran away screaming. I ran toward it with open arms. My offer got accepted within 48 hours. I remember sitting in that title company office, signing my name about 100 times, and feeling like I had just won the lottery. Sarah was there too, smiling for the photos we took in front of our new place. She posted them on Instagram immediately with all those hashtags. Blessed, dream home, new chapter, the whole 9 yards. My brother Mike showed up to the closing. That should have been my first red flag. Honestly, Mike was never the sentimental type. He worked in finance, or at least that is what he told people. Mostly he worked in borrowing money from different credit cards to pay off other credit cards while driving a leased BMW and wearing knockoff designer suits. But he showed up that day with a bottle of cheap champagne, and this weird energy I could not quite place. He kept asking questions, real specific questions. How much did you put down? What is the mortgage rate? How much are you planning to sink into renovations? What do you think the place will appraise for when you are done? I figured he was just being interested, maybe even proud of his little brother finally making it. My dad always liked Mike more anyway, said he was a smart one who used his brain instead of his back. Meanwhile, I was a dummy who got dirt under his fingernails for a living. But that day, holding those keys, I felt like I had finally proven something. I had built something real. The first month was demolition. That is always the fun part, honestly. You get to swing sledgehammers, rip out the old garbage, see the skeleton of what you are working with. I started with the upstairs bathrooms, pulled out tile that was probably installed when Nixon was in office. Then the kitchen. Those cabinets were so old they practically crumbled when I touched them. Sarah hated this phase. She hated the dust, hated the noise, hated that we were still living in our old apartment because the house was not habitable yet. She started spending more time out. Yoga classes 3 times a week, she said. Girls' nights every Friday. Brunches on Sunday with her book club that apparently never actually read any books. I was too focused to notice. Too excited. Every night, I would come home covered in drywall dust and insulation, and I would show her photos of the progress. Look at this original hardwood we found under the carpet. Check out these ceiling beams. They're solid oak. She would nod and scroll through her phone. Mike started coming around the site, too. A lot. He would show up in his fancy car, careful not to get his shoes dirty, walking around with his hands in his pockets like he was inspecting my work. More questions. Always more questions. You keeping receipts for all this? That wiring up to code? You pull the permits properly? I thought he was looking out for me, being the responsible older brother, making sure I did not screw this up. Then came that Tuesday in June, the day everything changed. Actually, everything changed twice that day, but I am getting ahead of myself. I was scheduled to start on the basement. That is always the worst part of any renovation. Dark, damp, full of spiders and whatever else has been living down there since the Coolidge administration. But basements are where you find the truth about a house. The foundation does not lie. The support beams do not pretend. You see everything in the raw down there. I headed down the creaky stairs with my crowbar, flashlight, and a respirator mask. The air down there was thick, musty, that old basement smell that every contractor knows. But there was something else underneath it. Something off. The basement was unfinished. Just concrete floors and exposed joists. Old boxes stacked in the corner from whoever lived there before. A water heater that looked like it was installed during the Cold War. And there, right behind that water heater, I saw it. A patch of drywall. Fresh drywall. Freshly painted, too. Now, that does not sound weird on the surface, right? Except everything else down there was original. Nothing had been touched in decades. But this one section, maybe 4 feet by 4 feet, right behind the water heater where nobody would normally look, brand new, bright white against all that old concrete block. I walked closer, shined my flashlight on it. The paint was still glossy. Recent work, maybe in the last year or two. But why? Why would someone patch one tiny section and leave everything else untouched? My gut twisted. In this business, you develop an instinct, a sixth sense for when something is wrong. This was wrong. I tapped the wall with my knuckles. Hollow. I tapped around the edges. Solid concrete block. Just this one section, hollow and new, like someone had cut a hole, done something, and sealed it back up real quick. Real amateur quick. I thought about the inspection report. It mentioned moisture issues in the basement, efflorescence on the walls, minor water seepage during heavy rains. Nothing major, they said. Nothing that would kill the deal. But this patch job? This was not on any report. I went back to my truck and grabbed my sledgehammer, the 8-pounder. If you were going to open Pandora's box, might as well kick the door down properly. The first hit went right through. The drywall shattered like it was made of crackers. And the smell that came out? Brother, I have smelled a lot of bad things in my career. Dead animals in walls, sewage backups, flooded crawl spaces full of stagnant water. This was worse. This was the smell of decay, of something dying, of something fundamentally wrong. I pulled my respirator up over my face and ripped away the rest of the drywall with my hands. My flashlight beam cut through the dust and hit the wall behind the patch. Black, completely black, wall to wall, floor to ceiling, dense black mold covering everything like someone had spray painted it with death. Stachybotrys chartarum, the bad kind, the kind that makes people sick, the kind that eats through wood and drywall like cancer, the kind that requires hazmat suits and EPA-certified remediation teams. I stood there in that basement, staring at what had to be 40 square feet of toxic mold behind a water heater, and I felt the blood drain from my face. See, I know mold. Every contractor does. You see it in bathrooms, under sinks, in attics with bad ventilation. Small stuff. You can handle it yourself with some bleach and a good mask. But this was not small. This was a colony, an infestation. And if it was this bad behind the water heater, where else was it hiding? I started pulling down more drywall. Every section I opened up revealed more black carpet of death. It was in the insulation. It was on the support beams. It spread along the foundation wall like a disease. Whoever had lived here before it found it freaked out, and instead of fixing it properly, they just sealed it up and sold the house. And I had bought it, as is. I sat down on the cold concrete floor and did the math in my head. Professional mold remediation for a space this size? $60,000. Minimum. But it was not just about cleaning the mold. I would need to replace all the affected wood, the floor joists above the basement that the mold had been feeding on, the subfloor, maybe even some of the main support beams if the rot went that deep. Then new insulation, new drywall, new everything. And that is after passing the air quality test to make sure the spores were actually gone. I would need to bring in engineers to make sure the structure was still sound, pull permits for all the new work, probably evacuate the whole house during remediation because the spores would spread everywhere once we started tearing things apart. My hands were shaking as I pulled out my phone and started texting other contractors I knew, guys who had dealt with this before. The responses came back fast, and they were all variations of the same message. You are screwed, man. That is $150,000 to $200,000 job. Minimum. $200,000. On top of the mortgage I had just taken out. On top of the renovation budget I had carefully planned. That number was more than I had in the bank. More than I could borrow. That number was bankruptcy. I climbed out of that basement and sat in my truck in the driveway for an hour. Just sat there, staring at the house that was supposed to be my dream and realizing it was a nightmare. How was I going to tell Sarah? How was I going to explain that I had used all our savings, all our credit, to buy a house that was literally toxic? We were going to lose everything. The house, the business, probably the marriage. Sarah was going to kill me. And in that silence, with the smell of mold still in my nose, all the other little things that felt off suddenly rushed in. That is when my brain started wandering to all the weird stuff I had been ignoring. Sarah's yoga classes that she never wanted to talk about. The way she had been distant for months. Cold. How she would flinch when I tried to kiss her. How her phone was suddenly password protected when it never had been before. And Mike showing up all the time. Mike asking about money. Mike and Sarah texting each other constantly. I had seen it, but told myself I was being paranoid. Brothers and sisters-in-law text sometimes, right? That is normal family stuff. But sitting in that truck, my dream house collapsing from the inside out, my marriage feeling just as toxic, something clicked. That gut feeling contractors get when something is wrong. I was getting about my wife, about my brother. I needed to know. I had to know. On the drive home, I stopped at Best Buy, walked straight to the security section, past all the cameras and alarm systems, to the little display of voice-activated recorders. $40 for a device the size of a matchbox that promised 30 hours of recording with voice activation. The kind of thing private investigators use. The kind of thing paranoid husbands use. I felt dirty buying it. This was not who I was. I trusted people. I believed in communication, in talking things out like adults. But I also believed in checking the foundation before you build on it. And my foundation felt shaky as hell. That night, Sarah said she was going to her friend Jennifer's house for a girls' night. She had been doing this every Wednesday for 2 months. I helped her pack her overnight bag, like I always did. Smiled, kissed her cheek, told her to have fun. And after she left, I took that little recorder, activated the voice detection mode, and tucked it deep under the passenger seat of her car, right behind the metal track, where she would never see it unless she was looking for it. I did not sleep that night. Not a minute. I just lay in bed staring at the ceiling, thinking about black mold eating away at wood, about Sarah's cold shoulder, about Mike's too many questions. Thinking about how sometimes the rot is not where you can see it. Sometimes it is hidden behind a fresh coat of paint. Sarah came home Thursday morning. Said she had a wonderful time. Said Jennifer says hi. She took a shower, got ready for work, and left. Normal. Everything normal. Except now I had 30 hours of audio to review. I waited until she left. Then I went to her car, pulled a recorder, and sat down at my laptop. My hands were shaking as I plugged it in. Part of me wanted to just delete it without listening. Pretend I never bought it. Go back to ignorant bliss. But you cannot unsee black mold once you have seen it. And you cannot unknow the truth once you need to know it. I hit play. The first 2 hours were just driving sounds. Radio, her humming along to some pop song. Then silence when she turned the car off. I fast-forwarded. More driving sounds when she started again the next morning. Then voices. Her voice. And a man's voice. Mike's voice. I turned up the volume. My heart was pounding so hard, I thought it would explode. Mike was saying something about my face when I talked about the house. How I looked like a kid with a new toy. And then Sarah laughed. Not a warm laugh. A cold, calculated laugh that I had never heard before. She said, "Let him play. Let the fool put all his work into it, all his money into it. Once the renovation is done and the value goes up, I will file for divorce. My lawyer already told me we will get the house. We will sell it and leave. He will never see it coming." I sat there frozen, listening to my wife and my brother plan how to steal my house, how to steal my dream, how to use me like a tool and throw me away when they were done. The recording went on. They talked about being careful, about keeping up appearances until the time was right, about how stupid I was for not noticing. Mike said something about always knowing he was smarter than me, how Dad was right about me being the dumb one. They laughed. They actually laughed. And then the sounds changed. And I do not need to describe what I heard next. Let us just say they were not discussing renovation plans anymore. I sat there in my living room, staring at my laptop screen, and felt everything inside me turn to ice. That morning I had learned two things. My house was toxic, and so was my family. The grief hit first. 7 years of marriage. My brother. The two people I trusted most in the world. Then came the anger. White hot, burning anger that made me want to put my fist through a wall. But underneath all that, something else was forming. Something cold and calculating. I was a builder. I solved problems. I looked at disasters and figured out how to fix them. And sitting there with a recording of betrayal in one hand and a $200,000 mold problem in the other, a solution started forming in my head. They wanted my house. They wanted to steal it after I fixed it up. They wanted me to be their free labor, their meal ticket, their dumb little builder brother's husband who did not know any better. Fine. I would give them exactly what they wanted. I would give them the house. All of it. Every toxic, moldy, rotting, $200,000 problem of it. But first, I needed to make them think they won. I needed them to steal it from me. And for that, I needed to become the bad guy, the cheater, the one who deserved to lose everything. I sat there as the sun came up, listening to that recording one more time, and started planning. Not a renovation, a demolition, but not of the house, of them. I sat in my truck for 3 days straight, not literally. Of course, I still went through the motions, showed up at job sites, smiled at clients, ate food I could not taste. But mentally, I was in that truck, parked in my driveway, holding two things that should not go together, but somehow fit perfectly. In my left hand, a voice recorder with 30 hours of my wife and brother planning to rob me blind. In my right hand, a contractor's estimate showing $200,000 of toxic mold remediation that would bankrupt me. Two problems, two disasters, two reasons my life was over. My old man used to say that the difference between a good contractor and a great one is not how you handle success. It is how you handle problems. Good contractors fight problems. Great contractors use them. I had spent 15 years turning structural nightmares into dream homes. Why should this be any different? I looked at those two problems again. Really looked at them. Sarah and Mike wanted my house. They wanted to wait until I fixed it up, pour my money and sweat into it, and then steal it through divorce court. They wanted the asset without the debt. They wanted the treasure without the work. What if I gave them exactly what they wanted? Not the dream house they imagined. The nightmare house they did not know existed. The $200,000 money pit that I had the misfortune of discovering. Let them have it. Let them own it. Let them take full legal responsibility for a structure that was slowly eating itself from the inside out. In construction, we have a rule. Never fight a problem. Redirect it. Use it. Let it work for you instead of against you. My problem cost $200,000 and had two greedy idiots who wanted to steal it. Suddenly, I did not have two problems anymore. I had one perfect solution. But here is the thing. I could not just give them the house. That would be suspicious as hell. Sarah would lawyer up, start asking questions, maybe even order a new inspection. No, I needed them to take it from me. I needed them to feel like they won, like they earned it, like they outsmarted the dumb contractor brother/husband who did not see it coming. For that to work, I needed to become the bad guy, the cheater, the one who deserved to lose everything. I spent that entire weekend in my apartment, blinds drawn, laptop glowing in the dark like I was some kind of hacker in a movie. Except I was not hacking anything. I was building something far more mundane and far more damaging. I was building evidence of an affair that never happened. There are apps for this. I am not proud that I know this. But desperate times and all that. I downloaded something called Fake Chat or Text Builder, or one of those things that lets you create entire text message conversations that look completely real. Screenshots that could fool anyone, even a divorce lawyer. I needed a name. Something believable. Something Sarah would buy. I went with Jess. Short for Jessica, I guess, though I never actually thought that far. Just Jess. A colleague from a job site. Someone vague enough to be believable, but specific enough to hurt. I wrote things like, "Thanks for listening yesterday. I do not know what I would do without someone who actually understands me." And her response is, "Anytime. You deserve someone who sees you." And coffee tomorrow? Same place? Me would not miss it. I felt gross typing it. Like I was cheating on Sarah even though she was literally sleeping with my brother. The irony was not lost on me. I was creating a fake affair to cover up a real one. Somewhere, a philosophy professor was having a field day with the ethics of the situation. But I made it believable. I dated the messages back 3 months, mixing mundane stuff. Work talk, complaints about traffic, a joke about terrible coffee at some fictional job site. I even threw in a few messages where I seemed guilty, where I told Jess we should not be doing this, that it was not fair to Sarah. Because that is what a real cheater would do, right? Show just enough conscience to seem human? I spent more time crafting this fake relationship than I had spent on actual romance in my entire marriage. If there was an Oscar for playing an unfaithful husband, I deserved it. Method acting at its finest. The plan was simple, elegantly simple. I would leave my phone unlocked on the kitchen counter. I would go take a shower. Sarah would see it, because she was always hovering around my phone lately, probably worried I was catching on to her and Mike. She would look. She would find the messages. And she would think she hit the jackpot. See, in a divorce, the cheater loses. That is how it works. Especially in a state with fault-based divorce laws. The unfaithful spouse gets crushed in court, loses assets, loses leverage, loses everything. Sarah knew this. Her lawyer definitely knew this. If she could prove I was cheating, she would not just get the house. She would get the house without any fight, without any suspicion, without any question. I picked a Tuesday night. No particular reason. It just felt right. Sarah was home, puttering around the kitchen, making herself a salad she would photograph for Instagram before eating half of. I walked in from a job site, exhausted and covered in drywall dust like always. Kissed her cheek like always. She barely looked up, like always. I pulled out my phone, made a show of checking something, then set it face up on the kitchen counter. Unlocked, screen still glowing. Like I was too tired to remember to lock it. Like I was careless. Like I was guilty. "I need a shower," I told her. "Long day. Be back in 10. I walked to the bathroom, closed the door, but did not lock it. Turned on the water, hot as it would go, steam filling the tiny space, until I could barely see my reflection in the mirror. That felt appropriate, somehow. I could not really see myself anymore either. I stood under that water for exactly 8 minutes. Not washing, just standing, feeling the heat pound against my shoulders while ice ran through my veins. This was it, the point of no return. Once Sarah found those messages, once she thought she caught me, there was no taking it back, no explaining it away. I was committed. My grandfather built houses in the 50s. He had a saying, measure twice, cut once, because once you cut the wood, you cannot uncut it. Once you commit to a decision, you live with it. I was cutting now. No going back. I turned off the water, grabbed a towel, wrapped it around my waist, took one long breath. Time to face my wife. My lying, cheating, scheming wife who was about to think she was facing her lying, cheating, scheming husband. The symmetry was almost beautiful. I opened the bathroom door. Steam followed me out like stage fog. Very dramatic. Hollywood would have been proud. Sarah was standing in the kitchen, right where I left her. Except now she was holding my phone, both hands, like it was the Holy Grail, like it was a winning lottery ticket, like it was exactly what she had been waiting for. And her face. Man, her face. I had been married to this woman for 7 years. I had seen her happy, sad, angry, tired, excited. I had seen every expression she had. But I had never seen this. This was something new. This was not heartbreak. This was not devastation. This was not the face of a woman whose world just shattered. This was triumph. Pure, undiluted, barely concealed triumph. She was trying to look hurt. I will give her credit for that. Her mouth was doing this little trembling thing. Her eyes were wide. But behind all that performance, behind the mask she was trying to wear, I saw it. Victory. She thought she won. Her voice came out shaky, theatrical, like she had rehearsed this. Tom, what is this? I played my part. I looked confused, saw the phone in her hands, let my eyes go wide, let panic flash across my face. Sarah, I can explain. That is not what it looks like. She held up the phone. Screenshots of my fake conversation with Jess glowing on the screen. Her voice got louder. Not what it looks like. Coffee dates? Someone who understands you? You are having an affair. I stammered. I actually stammered. Method acting, remember? Sarah, please. It is just a friend. A colleague. We just talk. Nothing happened. I swear nothing happened. She was shaking now, but not with grief, with excitement. She was vibrating with barely restrained joy. I could see her fighting to keep the smile off her face, fighting to maintain the wounded wife routine. You do not just talk to someone like this. She waved the phone. This is emotional cheating. This is betrayal. I hung my head, played the shame card. I know, I am sorry. I have been stressed with the house, with everything, and I just needed someone to talk to. It got out of hand. But I swear, Sarah, nothing physical happened. It is just messages. Just messages? Her voice cracked, very convincing. As if that makes it better? As if that means you did not betray our marriage? The word betray almost made me laugh. This woman who was sleeping with my brother, who was planning to rob me blind, who was literally conducting a long-term conspiracy to destroy my life, was standing in my kitchen, clutching my phone, screaming about betrayal. The universe has a twisted sense of humor. I am sorry, I said again. Quiet, defeated. I will end it. I will never talk to her again. Please, Sarah, we can work through this. She was shaking her head, backing away from me. Tears starting now. Real tears, probably, but not for the reason I was supposed to think. These were tears of joy, tears of relief, tears of a woman who just found her golden ticket. I cannot do this right now. Her voice was breaking. I cannot even look at you. I need space. I need to think. She grabbed her purse, her keys, still holding my phone like it was evidence at a crime scene, which I guess it was evidence of a crime I did not commit to cover up a crime she did. She stopped at the door, turned back, one final performance. I trusted you, Tom. I gave you 7 years. And this is how you repay me? Then she was gone, door slamming, car starting, tires on gravel. I stood there in the kitchen in my towel, water still dripping from my hair, and I let myself smile, a real smile, for the first time in 3 days. She took the bait. She took it and ran with it, and was probably already calling her lawyer, probably already calling Mike to tell him the good news, probably already planning how to use this in divorce court, probably already calculating how much the house would sell for once I finished fixing it up. Except I was not going to fix it up. That was the beautiful part. That was the part she did not know. That was the part that was going to make this whole thing worth it. In my business, we call it a Trojan horse. Something that looks valuable on the outside, but has a nasty surprise waiting inside. The Greeks understood this 4,000 years ago. Hide your soldiers in a gift. Let the enemy bring their own destruction through their own gates. Sarah and Mike wanted my house. They were going to steal it. They were going to use my fake affair as leverage in court. They were going to demand I give up the property because of my infidelity. They were going to insist on immediate transfer of the deed to avoid a messy trial. They were going to push for a quick resolution, so I could not drag my feet or do anything suspicious. And I was going to let them. I was going to fight just enough to make it look real, just enough to make them think they earned their victory. But in the end, I was going to give them exactly what they wanted. A Victorian house from 1887, prime real estate, with their names on the deed, with their names on the mortgage, with full legal ownership, and all the rights and responsibilities that came with it, including the responsibility for the $200,000 mole problem they did not know existed, the one I had not reported to anyone, the one that was not on any official record because I had not filed for a permit to start remediation. As far as the county was concerned, that house was still in perfect condition. As far as the bank was concerned, it was a solid investment. As far as Sarah and Mike were concerned, it was their ticket to the good life. As far as I was concerned, it was a ticking time bomb, and I was about to hand them the trigger. I walked to the window, looked out at the driveway where Sarah's car had been, where my truck still sat, where everything had changed 3 days ago when I found black mold behind a water heater and my wife's betrayal on a voice recorder. My phone was gone. She took it with her. Evidence. She would guard that thing like the Declaration of Independence. Show it to her lawyer. Probably show it to Mike. Probably already planning her next move. Let her plan. Let them both plan. Let them think they were playing chess while I was actually playing demolition. In construction, before you build something new, you have to clear the foundation. You have to remove everything rotten, everything unstable, everything that would compromise the structure. I was clearing my foundation. Sarah and Mike were the rot, and I was about to remove them in the most satisfying way possible, by giving them exactly what they wanted and letting it destroy them from the inside out. I grabbed a beer from the fridge, the cheap stuff because that is all I could afford with my finances, sat down on the couch that Sarah always hated, turned on the TV to some random show I was not watching, and I waited for the phone call from her lawyer, waited for the divorce papers, waited for them to make their move, because they would. Sarah was not the patient type. When she saw an opportunity, she took it, and I had just handed her the opportunity of a lifetime. My phone rang the next morning. Not Sarah, her lawyer, professional voice, cold tone. Mr. Thompson, this is Rebecca Chun from Chun and Associates. I am representing your wife, Sarah Thompson, in a dissolution of marriage proceeding. We need to schedule a time to discuss the division of assets and the terms of separation. Given the circumstances of your infidelity, my client is prepared to be reasonable, but we will need your full cooperation. I let her talk, made appropriate noises, sounded defeated and guilty and cooperative. Yes, ma'am. Of course. Whatever Sarah needs. I never wanted this. I made a terrible mistake. I just want to make this as easy as possible for her. Rebecca Chin sounded pleased. Good. That is a mature attitude, Mr. Thompson. We will be in touch with the paperwork. I hung up, smiled at my empty apartment, at my empty life, at the trap that was slowly closing around two people who thought they were so smart, who thought they were playing me, who thought I was just some dumb contractor, who did not know what was happening. They were about to find out exactly how smart this dumb contractor could be. They were about to learn that sometimes the biggest revenge is not taking something away from someone. Sometimes the biggest revenge is giving them exactly what they want and watching it eat them alive. The bait was set. The hook was in the water, and they were already biting. Now, all I had to do was wait. Wait and watch and enjoy the show. Because this was going to be one hell of a show. The lawyer's office smelled like expensive suits and cheap lies. That is the best way I can describe it. You know that smell. Leather chairs that cost more than my truck. Coffee that tastes like it was brewed by someone with a philosophy degree. Air freshener trying to mask the stench of broken marriages and shattered dreams. I sat on one side of a mahogany table that probably cost more than the mold remediation I was avoiding. Sarah sat on the other side with her attorney, Rebecca Chun, who looked like she ate contractors for breakfast and picked her teeth with the contracts. Mike was there too, sitting behind Sarah. For emotional support, supposedly. He kept his face neutral, but I could see it, that little smirk, that barely contained triumph. He was practically vibrating with joy. Rebecca Chin opened a leather folder and adjusted her designer glasses. Mr. Thompson, we appreciate you coming today. Given the circumstances, my client is willing to be reasonable. However, the infidelity you committed has caused significant emotional distress. Mrs. Thompson feels betrayed, abandoned, and deeply hurt by her actions. I nodded, looked down at my hands, played the part. Yeah, I get that. I messed up. Sarah dabbed at her eyes with tissue. Real tears or fake, I could not tell anymore. Did not matter. Rebecca continued. Given the nature of your betrayal, Mrs. Thompson is seeking full ownership of the marital home, the dream home, as she calls it, the home she believed would be your future together, the home you were renovating for your family. The words hung in the air. Dream home, future, family, all the things I thought I was building, all the things they were stealing. My attorney, a guy named Frank who I found on Google and could barely afford, cleared his throat. My client has significant equity in that property. He purchased it. He has been doing all the renovation work himself. To simply hand over full ownership seems excessive. Rebecca smiled. The kind of smile a shark gives right before it bites. Excessive? Your client engaged in an emotional affair. He betrayed his marriage vows. He destroyed the trust that was the foundation of their relationship. Mrs. Thompson is not asking for alimony. She is not asking for spousal support. She is simply asking for the home that was supposed to be theirs. The home her husband tainted with his infidelity. I watched Sarah during the speech. Watched her face. She was good. Really good. She looked devastated. Wounded. A victim of a heartless husband who threw away 7 years for some woman named Jess who did not even exist. But I knew her tells. The way her left eye twitched when she was excited. The way her fingers drummed on the table when she was getting what she wanted. She was not devastated. She was ecstatic. Frank looked at me, raised his eyebrows. What do you want to do? I took a long breath, let my shoulders slump, let my voice crack just a little. I want to make this right. I want Sarah to be happy. If she wants the house, she can have it. Frank blinked. Are you sure? That property is worth a significant amount. I nodded. Yeah, I am sure. I caused this. I ruined everything. The least I can do is give her the house. I watched Rebecca and Sarah exchange a glance. Quick, triumphant. They thought they were playing me. They thought their lawyer skills and emotional manipulation were working. They had no idea I was handing them exactly what I wanted them to take. Frank shifted uncomfortably. Well, if that is your decision, we will need to work out the details. The mortgage, the deed transfer, the timeline. I leaned forward. Only one condition. She needs to refinance the mortgage in her name only. Remove me from all the documents, all the liability. I do not want any connection to that property after this. Clean break. Rebecca nodded immediately. Too quickly. That is acceptable. In fact, that is preferable. Mrs. Thompson will handle the refinancing promptly. My old man used to tell me something when I was learning the trade. Son, if something looks too good to be true, it probably is. Always check what you cannot see. Always look behind the walls. They were so busy celebrating their victory that they forgot to look behind the walls. They forgot to check what they could not see. They thought they were getting an asset. They had no idea they were getting a $200,000 liability. Frank drew up the papers. I signed where he told me to sign. Sarah signed with a flourish, her signature bold and confident. Rebecca witnessed. Mike watched from his chair, that smirk growing wider with every signature. The house was officially hers. The mortgage would be refinanced within 30 days. My name would be removed from everything. Clean break, just like I wanted. The next week, I packed up my tools. Everything I owned fit in the back of my truck. Funny how that works. You spend your whole life accumulating things, and when it all falls apart, you realize how little you actually need. Toolbox, work clothes, a couple boxes of personal stuff. That was it. That was all that was left of 7 years of marriage and a lifetime of dreams. I was loading the last box when Mike pulled up in his leased BMW. He stepped out, all casual confidence, and walked over like he owned the place, which I guess he kind of did now, through Sarah, his brother's soon-to-be ex-wife, the woman he had been sleeping with while pretending to support me. The irony was so thick you could cut it with a utility knife. He put his hand on my shoulder, that condescending pat that people give when they feel superior. Hey, brother, I know this is tough, but, you're doing the right thing. Taking responsibility. Making it right. After what you did, I looked at his hand, then at his face. His smug, self-satisfied face. Yeah, he kept going, unable to help himself. And do not worry about Sarah. She is going to be fine. Better than fine, actually. She deserves to be happy, She deserves someone who appreciates her. Someone who will not throw it all away for some random woman. I will make sure she is taken care of. We will take care of each other. The mask was slipping. He was not even trying to hide it anymore. Not try to pretend this was about Sarah's well-being or family support. He was claiming his prize, declaring his victory. Standing on my driveway, next to my truck, telling me he won. I closed the tailgate, turned to face him fully. Just take care of the house, Mike. It needs a lot of attention, a lot of work. Make sure you check everything, especially the basement, especially after it rains. He laughed, actually laughed. Yeah, I got it. I will handle it. That is what I do, right? Handle things. Unlike some people. His smile was pure triumph. He thought I was talking about finished work. Paint, flooring, cosmetic stuff. He thought I was being bitter, making some sad attempt to remind him of all the work left to do. He had no idea I was talking about hazmat suits and EPA violations and structural rot that would make a grown man cry. I got in my truck, started the engine. It coughed to life, reliable as always. As I backed out of the driveway, I looked in the rear-view mirror. Sarah had come out onto the porch. She and Mike were standing there, his arm around her waist, her head on his shoulder. They were kissing, right there, on the porch of the house I bought. The house I was supposed to renovate for our family. The house that was now theirs. They looked happy, victorious, like they had won the lottery, like they had outsmarted everyone, like they were the heroes of their own story. I drove away, did not look back again, found a friend's couch to crash on, spent the next 3 months working 18-hour days, rebuilding my business from scratch, taking every job I could get, small stuff, bathroom remodels, deck repairs, anything that paid. I was starting over, ground zero, rock bottom. Meanwhile, Sarah and Mike were living their best life. I know because Sarah could not help herself. She had to post everything on Instagram. I had not blocked her yet. Morbid curiosity, maybe, or maybe I wanted to watch. Wanted to see them enjoy their victory. Wanted to document their happiness before the other shoe dropped. They moved into the house in August. Posted photos of them carrying boxes through the front door. Champagne on the porch. Hashtag dream home. Hashtag blessed. Hashtag new beginnings. They threw a housewarming party. I saw the pictures. String lights in the backyard. Friends I used to know. People toasting to their happiness. Everyone smiling. Everyone celebrating the happy couple in their beautiful Victorian home. They were blessed, blessed with mold spores they were breathing in every single night. Blessed with structural damage they could not see. Blessed with a ticking time bomb that I had wound up and handed to them with a bow. 6 of one, half a dozen of the other, as they say. I waited. That was the hard part. Waiting, not saying anything, not warning anyone, just waiting for nature to take its course. See, they moved in during summer. Dry season. Everything was fine in dry season. The mold was dormant, contained, hidden behind that amateur patch job in the basement. But I knew what was coming. I knew what happened in our state when the calendar flipped to November. Rain. Weeks and weeks of nonstop rain. The kind that seeps into everything. The kind that finds every crack, every weakness, every hidden problem in a house. The kind that would wake up the mold colony that was sleeping behind those basement walls and turn it into an active, spreading, toxic nightmare. I marked November 1st on my calendar, waited for the weather report, waited for the first storm. It hit on November 3rd, came in from the Pacific, like it always did. Heavy, cold, relentless. It rained for 3 days straight, then another storm, then another. By mid-November, we had got more rain in 2 weeks than we usually got in 2 months. That is when my phone rang. A known number. I almost did not answer, but curiosity got the better of me. Tom? It was Sarah. Her voice was weird, uncertain, nothing like the confident, victorious tone from the lawyer's office. Tom, I know we are not supposed to be in contact, but I have a question about the house. I waited, let the silence stretch. What about it? There is this smell in the basement, kind of musty, and the wallpaper in the living room is starting to peel at the corners, like it is damp or something. Did you ever notice that? I kept my voice neutral. Curious. Huh, that is weird. Sounds like maybe a moisture issue. You should probably call a contractor. Get someone to check it out. It is your house now, so, your responsibility. But did you ever see anything like that when you were working on it? Nope. But I only got as far as the demo phase before. Well, everything happened. You should definitely get it checked out, though. Better safe than sorry. Good luck. Sarah. I hung up, smiled. That was call number 1. 2 weeks later, another storm rolled in. This one was bigger. The Weather Service called it an atmospheric river. That is a fancy way of saying the sky opened up and did not close for 10 days straight. Rain so heavy you could not see across the street. Rain that found every weakness in every structure and exploited it. Rain that turned my gift into their nightmare. This time Mike called. His voice was not uncertain. It was panicked, angry, the kind of anger that comes from fear. The kind of fear that comes from watching your life fall apart in real time. Tom, what the hell did you do? What did you do to this house? I leaned back on my friend's couch, cracked open a cheap beer. Nothing, Mike. I bought a house, did some demo, got divorced, moved out. That is what I did. Why? What is going on? Do not play dumb with me. We called an inspector, a real inspector. You know what he found? Black mold, everywhere, behind the walls, in the basement, under the floors. He said it has been there for years. He said someone covered it up. He said this house is a biohazard. I took a long drink. Let him wait. Let him panic. Let him feel what I felt sitting in that basement, staring at 40 square feet of toxic death, realizing I was bankrupt. That sounds bad, Mike. Really bad. What did the inspector say you need to do? He was yelling now, losing control. $200,000. Minimum. Full remediation. Replace the floor joists. Replace the subfloor. Possible structural damage. He said if we do not fix it immediately, the city will condemn the property. He said we cannot live here. He said it is literally making us sick. Man, that is rough. That is really rough. So, what are you going to do? What are we going to do? What do you mean, what are we going to do? You did this. You knew about this. You had to know. I set down my beer, stood up, walked to the window, looked out at the rain. This was it. This was the moment I had been waiting for. 3 months of sleeping on a couch. 3 months of watching them celebrate. 3 months of biting my tongue. This was a payoff. Did I know? I let the question hang in the air. Let it build. Let him sweat. Yeah, Mike, I knew. I found the mold about an hour before my voice recorder picked up you, and Sarah planning to steal my house once I finished renovating it. Funny timing, right? Silence. Shocked, complete silence. You wanted the dream house? You got it. You wanted me to put my work into it? No thanks. You wanted my money? Nah, you got my debt instead. That $200,000 debt you were holding, that was supposed to be mine. But you were so eager to take the house, so quick to sign those papers, so confident you were smarter than your dumb contractor brother. Neither of you even ordered a new inspection. Financial genius, remember? He was sputtering, trying to form words. You cannot. This is fraud. This is illegal. We will sue you. We will take you for everything. Sue me for what? I bought a house as is. I found a problem. I got divorced before I fixed it. You demanded the house in the divorce. You refinanced it in your name. You took full ownership. Legally, that house and everything wrong with it is your problem, not mine. I am not even on the deed anymore, remember? You made sure of that. His voice got quieter. Dangerous. You planned this. All of it. The fake affair. The divorce. Everything. I planned to renovate a house. I planned to build a life. You and Sarah planned to rob me. I just made sure that when you stole from me, you stole the right thing. You want to take everything? Congratulations. You took everything, including the nightmare. You're going to pay for this. His voice was shaking. You are going to regret this. No, Mike, you are going to pay for this. $200,000, to be exact, plus interest on the mortgage you are holding on a house you cannot live in, plus whatever lawyer fees you rack up trying to fix your mess. You and Sarah enjoy that. Enjoy paying for a toxic house together. I am sure your relationship will survive the financial pressure. They always do, right? I hung up, blocked the number, blocked Sarah's number, blocked both of them from every platform I could think of. I was done. The show was over. The trap had sprung. The revenge was complete. I heard through mutual friends what happened next. They tried to fight it, tried to get loans for the remediation. No bank would touch them. They tried to sell the house as is, like I had bought it. No one would buy it. Not once the mold was on record. Not once the city had flagged it. Not once everyone knew what was wrong with it. The house was worthless. Worse than worthless. It was a liability. They declared bankruptcy 6 months later. The bank foreclosed, took the property, demolished it, scraped it right down to the foundation, and hauled it away as contaminated waste. That beautiful Victorian home from 1887, the one with the wraparound porch and the original crown molding, was gone, erased, like it never existed. And Mike and Sarah, they did not make it either. Turns out love does not survive bankruptcy. Turns out when the money runs out and the bills pile up and you are both working 3 jobs to pay off debt from a house that does not exist anymore, you start to resent each other. You start blaming each other. You start realizing that maybe you were not in love. Maybe you were just in greed. And greed does not keep you warm at night. I rebuilt my life. Took a while. Took a lot of work. But I did it. Started taking bigger jobs. Built my reputation back up. Made enough to rent a small place of my own. Nothing fancy. But it was mine. It was clean. It was honest. It had a solid foundation. My grandfather was a builder too. He taught my dad, who taught me. He used to say that the foundation is everything. You can have the prettiest house in the world, but if the foundation is rotten, the whole thing will come down eventually. He was talking about construction, but he was also talking about life, about relationships, about character. Check the foundation before you build, because once you start building on rot, everything you create is already doomed. Sarah and Mike learned that lesson the hard way. They built their relationship on lies, on greed, on betrayal. They thought they were so smart, thought they had found a shortcut, thought they could take what they wanted without consequences. But you cannot build on a rotten foundation. Eventually, it all comes down. Me, I learned to check foundations. I learned to verify trust. I learned that the person who seems too eager to take something from you probably does not know what they are actually taking. And most importantly, I learned that sometimes the best revenge is not taking something away from someone. Sometimes the best revenge is giving them exactly what they want and letting them choke on it. That Victorian house is gone now, but the lesson remains. Always check the foundation, especially when building your life. And if someone tries to steal your house, make sure you give them the keys to the basement. Make sure they know what they are really getting. Make sure they understand that sometimes the things we want most are the things that destroy us. That is my story. That is how I lost my house, my wife, and my brother. And that is how I made sure they lost everything too. Some people call it revenge. I call it property transfer, with full disclosure. Eventually,